is 50 plus. Cause women never age and old school will always be cool. 50 plus. Brought to you by the UT Health Consortium on Aging. Informed decisions for a healthier, happier life. Here's Doug Pike.
Welcome back to 50 plus. I'm running some stats on baby boomers and came across a couple of things. According to a recent AARP survey of us, 40% of us plan to work until we drop. This is kind of scary, too. Another survey, 36% of Americans say they don't contribute anything at all to retirement savings. They're counting on everybody else to pay for them, and I'll tell you how that's going to turn out a little later in the show, maybe, if I have time. Right now, I want to bring Mr. Lex Frieden, I was just talking to Jason about that, Lex, and I messed it up with him, and I messed it up with you, and I apologize. Welcome.
Not a problem. Good morning,
Thank
sir.
you. Yes, sir. Thank you. Professor of Biomedical Informatics at UT Health and Director of the Independent Living Research Utilization Program at Texas Institute for Research and Rehabilitation, or the other way?
Well, we changed their name a few years ago.
Oh, okay.
It's now Tier Memorial Hermann.
Okay, very good. Tier Memorial Hermann. I don't have to figure out which way it goes.
Exactly.
You also, if I read correctly, one of the architects of the Americans with Disabilities Act back in 1990?
I was at the right place and the right time. I had the opportunity to help develop that law.
Well, you were the right man for the job, too. I appreciate what you did there. Thanks for your time this morning. Let's talk a little bit about just how many baby boomers are hitting retirement age now every day.
Well, there were, between the years of 1946 and 1964, 76 million people were born in the United States. It's the largest demographic bubble of that nature in history, as far as we know. And all of those people now, you just do the math, we're all reaching retirement age. They started to retire in 2001, and I just reached that age last year, legal retirement, 65, and I fit into the category that you mentioned a minute ago. I intend to continue working as long as I can.
Gosh,
but
yeah.
The reality of the situation is I already have a disability. I broke my neck in a car accident when I was 18 years old. So I've learned to live with it. But many people who are now retiring don't have disabilities, and by the time they're 70 years old or so, that they'll begin to experience disability and may not be prepared for it.
Yeah, the older we get, the more likely we are to wind up with some sort of physical limitation or disability. That's understandable, and I guess to some degree avoidable. Not really, but there's going to be a high percentage of these people coming in, and they're going to have a variety of disabilities that are all going to kind of take on different treatments. Let's talk about some of the different disabilities that are going to need special care as we get older.
Well, most people have experienced memory lapse from time to time. They forgot where they put their keys. Many people have woke up in the morning and it's difficult to see, and you have some vision loss, maybe hearing loss. All of us who grew up in the 60s listened to those loud bands and rock music, and that's, some of us who were in the war heard loud noises, guns, people who work in industrial industries and so on. A lot of things affect your hearing, and so people with who are growing older begin to experience the effects of the lifestyle we led when we were younger. And we have hearing loss, we have memory loss, we have vision loss, and we have difficulty ambulating. We get arthritis, we get other kinds of natural physical conditions, and it makes it more difficult as we age to cope with those things. But we can. I mean, that's the good news.
As adults, do more people, Lex, become disabled by definition from accidents or disease, do you think?
Well, as adults, I think it's the natural aging process.
Yeah.
We're all subject to accidents any time, and many people are injured each year by accidents. Some of us have permanent injuries. My neck was broken in a car accident. Other people have brain injuries as a result of head knocks that they get in car accidents and in other kinds of conditions. But illnesses also cause disability. People who've had cancer experience loss of stamina, and other things usually a result of the treatment, not necessarily the disease after the fact.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, we're all subject. We're living in a real society, in a real world, and we're all subject to accidents, illnesses, and most importantly for people who are aging, just the natural effects of the aging process.
Lex Frieden, professor of biomedical informatics at UT Health. Are there any studies, Lex, to show any specific activities that we might be participating in as we tend to get older that may result in a higher frequency or severity of a proneness to accident or disability?
I don't think so. I
Yeah.
mean, actually, most of the studies suggest that if we engage in sort of preventative health care and good health, diets may be the most important thing. There's so many people who are prone to having diabetes, given the menus that we all like to follow. That's really puts us at risk. So we really need to watch our diets. Even younger people need to watch their diets, because that's a way to avoid disability in the future. But I think exercise, walking is a great way to stay healthy, and all those things. Now, active folks are also sports oriented, and I think when we're engaged in sports, we're subject to injury, but good therapy and recovery from those kinds of accidents can occur quite easily. So we just have to be careful as we age. I think we're a little more fragile, and sometimes people don't take that into account.
Boy, I'm having to do that right now. I'm seeing things that I used to could do without even blinking that I'm having to rethink and wonder about. As a nation, Lex, how are we doing in regard to caring for our disabled citizens?
Well, it depends on where you are and what your particular circumstances are. Many of you mentioned in your introduction there the issue of people saving for retirement, and as we get older, as we become disabled, and as we become more disabled, we need help. And we do not have a nationwide community-based infrastructure for providing assistance to people with disabilities in their home. That's the greatest challenge that we'll have. By the year 2020, half of those 76 million baby boomers are going to have disabilities. Many of them will need help. And we don't have many options. You can go to a nursing home, but most aging folks want to age in place. They want to stay at home. They want to be in the community. They don't want to live in a nursing home. That's threatening to many of us. And the option to get help outside the nursing home, unfortunately, is not very good. So our communities need to work on improving the infrastructure for home-based care for people who need assistance. And you may need help getting up in the morning, and that's all. You may need help fixing a meal. It depends on your individual circumstances, but there needs to be a dynamic system in place that can meet all those needs. Families often care for people and provide assistance who have needs as they age, but many families now have to work, and they're not available all the time to help somebody at home. So we need to look for solutions to that. We're
going to have to find something. At some point, there's going to have to be discussion of financial disability. From what I'm reading, you got half of 76 million people who are going to experience some sort of disability and need help. Somebody's got to pay for that. And the nursing home option, the assisted living option, those aren't free.
They're very expensive. Actually, care in the home would be probably the most cost-effective approach to that, and I think if it's done right, people can afford to pay for the assistance that they need in the home rather than having to spend down. I mean, that's the other option that I don't think we warn people about enough. If they get to the point where they're not able to pay for the assistance they need, and particularly if they're going to choose to live in a nursing home or an assisted living facility, that can be very expensive, and they run out of money at some point. Once that happens, you become perhaps beneficiary of state-sponsored public aid, or in this case,
that's not much, though,
Medicaid, and that will pay for limited services in a nursing home for an extended period of time if somebody doesn't have any other resources. But unfortunately, those are not the kinds of services that most people would choose if they had the option.
We're going to have to take a little break here. Stand by, Lex Frieden. I'll be right back to you in just a second. I'll put him on hold. On the way out, a word for my good friends at the UT Health Consortium on Aging, one of their geriatric gems, talking about long-term care. A living will, health directive, something like that, lists medical treatments that a patient will or will not allow, like ventilators and dialysis. And medical durable power of attorney is there. Healthcare proxies, they designate an individual to make medical decisions if the patient can't do so. If a medical POA is not there, the decisions default to the patient's spouse, children, parents, and next of kin in that order. Different states have different rules. You've got to be aware of those, and so do the healthcare providers. You need to make sure that your loved one's wishes are being attended. To find out more about this, go to uth.edu/aging. That's uth.edu/aging. We'll be back with more 50 Plus.
Now, the LaPorte CPA's Traffic Center.
There's an accident this morning on the Beltway westbound between Ella Boulevard and T.C. Jester. Only the left lane is open, a slight delay there, and a stall on the right shoulder on the West Park Tollway westbound after Eldridge Parkway. Use caution there. I'm Benita Baker in the 24-hour traffic center.
This report is brought to you by John Eagle Acura.
John Eagle Acura, home of market pricing and the Eagle Age. Just two more reasons John Eagle Acura is the #1 volume Acura dealer in Texas. Learn the advantages of buying from John Eagle Acura at johneagleacura.com.
If you don't have a lot of money to spend on a vacation, then can I just recommend you drive a little over just west of Katy on I-10 to Columbus Outfitters.
I know that doesn't sound like a destination vacation, but
oh, it is. Trust me. Take the kids, take the wife, take everybody. They can go see them Yamaha utility vehicles. They got 6-seaters, they got 3-seaters, they got all kinds of different sizes and models, ATVs, UTVs, the Prowler Arctic Cat.
how am I going to get this Arctic Cat? Throw it up on your new big Tex trailer you just got there.
They got trailers and then utility trailers and high horse and cattle trailers, and they got truck beds. And by the way, they deliver to you in this area.
What if somebody tries to take my ATV on the way home? That's the reason you brought the crossbow, too, at Columbus.
See, at Columbus Outfitters, they got all the hunting apparel, the crossbows, all your archery accessories, even some sunglasses for you and everything.
Yeah, you want to feel like a man? Come on out to Columbus Outfitters.
You're congested, and it's aggravating. You have difficulty breathing through your nose. You have pressure, pain, above your eyes, below your eyes. You don't like feeling sick all the time, and it's been going on for years. You've gone to the doctor, been to urgent care, and it's always the same thing, right? Antibiotics and nasal sprays. You may suffer from chronic sinus infections, and you're stuck. You're tired of always just treating the symptoms. The good news? There are thousands of people who suffered just like you, but now their issues are gone. How? A minimally invasive procedure done in the office called balloon sinuplasty. Imagine the relief of not having to deal with the congestion, the pain, the sinus infections. Find out if balloon sinuplasty is the solution for you. Set an appointment today with Dr. Michael Kaplan at Kaplan Sinus Relief. 713-766-1380. 713-766-1380. That's 713-766-1380.
Oh, Lord, here come them women's. Oh, my Lord. Well, hello, girls. Won't y'all come on up in here? How you doing? Ooh, something had died up in here, baby.
Her house smell nasty.
Oh, my God, I'm so embarrassed. I should have went on the internet and called oopssteam.com.
It's too late now.
It don't matter whether you stay in the White House or the Po House, honey. You need your carpet clean. Oopssteam.com. Call oopssteam.com.
Jerry Reynolds, the Car Pro here for Classic Chevy Sugar Land with reason number 2. You can relax and enjoy the difference. Classic Chevy will help you find new roads with fair pricing.
Classic Chevrolet. Relax, enjoy the difference.
When you complain about a drain, gotta gripe about a pipe. There's a faucet that keeps falling apart and a toilet's just not flushing right. Call Piggott, Piggott Plumbing. Be a Piggott Plumbing VIP. That's P-I-C-K-E-T-T. Call 713 for the people who know. 896-9700. Call Piggott, Piggott Plumbing. We like to make you smile.
Go to HoustonPlumber.com.
License 4975.
You know, at UT Health Science Center's Consortium on Aging, focus is on improving the quality of older people's lives through devoted geriatric care and continuing education of healthcare providers, family members, anybody else who will listen. Consortium patients are treated by doctors who understand and are committed to geriatric medicine. To find out more, go to uth.edu/aging. That's uth.edu/aging. Healthcare for seniors.
This report is brought to you by MemberHomeLoan.com.
The News Radio 740 forecast today, mostly sunny, high of 95. Tonight, partly cloudy skies, low of 72.
It's so easy to let Member Home Loan find the mortgage that makes sense for you. They have 10 local credit unions that want your mortgage. Your loan starts here in Houston and stays here to be serviced. Take it from the high-tech Texan. Credit union loans make sense. Go to MemberHomeLoan.com. NMLS number 105693.
John Eagle Acura is the only Acura dealer to offer the Eagle H. Only at johneagleacura.com.
Where been there and done that actually means been there, done that.
And this is just the beginning.
This is 50 Plus with Doug Pike.
And we are back. More 50 Plus. Here we go. Lex Frieden on the phone. He, a professor of biomedical informatics. What exactly is biomedical informatics? I didn't have that when I was in school.
Well, we have probably one of the best schools in the United States at University of Texas Health Science Center, and we're trying to use data as well as possible. The medical record data that we collect and is part of our data that we use, and we're trying to look at how to improve systems of care by improving the data that our care providers have for us and that we ourselves have. Too often, medical records are just sort of hidden from the patient, and maybe they're too complex for us to think we can understand them. We're trying to help people apply the information that we have about them so that they can help to improve their own lives. We're trying to improve the systems of information so that healthcare providers can be more effective and that we don't lose information from one visit to the next or from one clinic to the next, and these are all important aspects of the work we do. We're also looking in the area of disability at how to apply some of the new technology to assisting people with disabilities to be more independent and more functional.
Let's go back for a second, Lex, if you don't mind, to 1990 and your role in creation of the Americans with Disabilities Act. That was a real turning point in this country, wasn't it?
Well, it was. We established the principle of non-discrimination on the basis of disabilities. Before that, people with disabilities could apply for work. They could be told by an employer that employer did not hire people with disabilities strictly, without even considering the qualifications the individual had. After that became prohibited, along with a lot of other types of discrimination. We were able, as a result of the law, to see many public accommodations. In fact, there are very few buildings in the United States today that are not accessible to people with disabilities. Everybody's seen disabled parking outside of the stores and shops, and that was all a product of the ADA. People watch television and they see the captioning on the television. That was partly motivated by work on the Americans with Disabilities Act. And so there was a sea change in the environment resulting from the passage of the law. But most importantly, I think it set a framework for non-discrimination in this country that should be applied to all people, including those with disabilities.
Did you and the other people involved in that process ever doubt that it would get done, or just knew you would have to stick with it until it was?
You know, at some point I was convinced that it was destined to pass. We proposed the ADA in a 1986 report to the President and Congress called Toward Independence. 2 years later, the law was actually introduced in the Senate. The following year, it was reintroduced, and that bill actually passed and was signed by President Bush in 1990. You'll be interested to know, I think, that the original proposal we made, we were taking to President Reagan in January 1986, but the Space Shuttle's Challenger had a terrible accident on the morning we were supposed to meet the President, and we weren't able to do so. We were rerouted to the Vice President, who happened to be George Bush, who was very interested and personally committed to our mission. He had in his family lost a child with a disability, and he and Barbara understood what we were trying to achieve. So he made a commitment to help us at that point in time, and then as history will record, he was elected president 2 years later and had the honor of signing the Americans with Disabilities Act on January 26th, 25 years ago this year.
Wow. Let's come back to the present here. We've got about 5 minutes left. What sort of assistance, you talked about this briefly in the first segment, what sort of assistance is available now to people who suddenly find themselves, like you did, disabled and just don't know which way to turn, don't know who to ask? Where's the first call they need to make?
Well, obviously the first call they need to make is 911.
Well, yeah, okay. Okay, second call, Lex.
But after you get stabilized and you survive, your doctors will help point you towards the appropriate service level. And in many cases, for people with severe traumatic injuries, it's going to be TIER Memorial Hermann. The services that are provided there help people every day become rehabilitated to the extent that their physical conditions allow them to be so. But more likely, in the case of people who are aging, these are going to be kind of progressive effects of aging. So a gerontologist, a doctor who can help you decipher what it is that's happening, what it is that's beginning to I guess you're beginning to lose your hearing. Well, you need to figure out why and to see if there's anything you can do to arrest those kinds of symptoms. At the same time, then there are places you can go to get therapy to begin to accommodate those symptoms if they're not going to go away. And in many cases, in the aging person, those are simply previews of what's coming later. It gets worse rather than it gets better, but you can slow the process through appropriate care and treatment, and you can begin to adapt ways of dealing with the process. My wife, for example, just had an operation where they improved her vision. She doesn't have to use glasses anymore.
Wow.
And she can see better than she did before.
I want to get in line for that.
You might want to look into that. But there are things that can be done, and medical science obviously is having breakthroughs every day. So I think the future as far as the ability for professional clinicians to provide assistance to people is getting good. But you need to have a good doctor, and you need to identify that person, stay with them, and make sure they understand you and your objectives and can help you.
In this last minute or so, Lex, talk about accepting your new normal when the hearing goes or when the vision goes or anything like that. How hard is that, and what's the process like?
Well, different people adapt differently. When I broke my neck, I was watching men fly to the moon and walk on the moon, and I thought, well, our world is improving so quickly, technology is having an impact. Simply spending the rest of my life in a wheelchair won't be such a big deal. Turns out it was maybe a bigger deal than I might have thought of at the beginning, but I had a kind of constructive, progressive, problem-solving attitude towards it, and I always have tried to look at things from a constructive, progressive, problem-oriented kind of way. Some people have difficulty doing that. They have difficulty adapting, and those people may need counseling. They may need peer counseling. They may need to go to local community-based resources like the Houston Center for Independent Living. Other places like TIER have great counselors. If people are interested in continuing to work, we have the DARS, the Division of Assistive and Rehabilitative Services here in the state. So many, many resources that you can seek referral to, and people can help adapt to disabilities in many different ways. It depends, of course, on the specific type of impairment that you have. But there are specialists here in Houston, the Houston area, that we're very fortunate to be able to reach to.
Very fortunate indeed. Lex Frieden, you're one of them, by the way, Professor of Biomedical Informatics at UT Health and Director of the Independent Living Research Utilization Program at TIER Memorial Hermann. I'll get it right for you this time. Lex, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Yes,
Have
sir.
a great day.
Bye-bye.